He's just home guy. I don't know what else to say. You've never met him.
Was
Aw.
it sweet?
Yeah,
Are you gonna get married?
maybe.
You gotta stop asking people that.
I gotta keep asking people that.
I, Olive from Lowertown, and Olivia O, here by request, Joshua Ovalle. Please come on the podcast. We're begging you. I'm begging you. Please come on the podcast. We miss you.
Hi.
Thanks for joining and
Yeah,
for
thanks
like
so much for
coming
being here.
on. We're so excited.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
We've just been sitting and staring in the Zoom call for like 5 minutes.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Talking about
No,
boys
you're
and
good.
stuff.
No.
No, it's okay.
It was fun.
No, yeah, we were
Yeah.
gossiping. We were gossiping. Don't
We were
worry.
gossiping.
Welcome back to the Internet is Dead podcast, also known as the Joshua Valle. Please be a guest on my podcast. I'm Samira. I'm joined by my co-host Brittany, our friend Olivia, and Olive of Olivia O in Lowertown. Actually, like
Awesome. Sorry.
That's good. So on the podcast, we'll be discussing like the internet's evolution and how that's been attached to stan culture and how it's changed drastically over the past decade. We'll be interviewing creatives, artists, and public figures who were there to witness this evolution or experienced it firsthand, and kind of just talk about like the dynamics since like how like becoming internet famous in 2024 like looks so different than it did in like 2014.
The name of the podcast is The Internet is Dead, but we're also known as the Joshua Valle. Please be a guest on my podcast. He's like a Vine guy for people who don't know. So yeah, we're just trying to get him on the pod. I don't know. We're trying to use anyone's power we can get. Like,
I
and we'll
mean,
come back to it.
successful eventually. I feel
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
it's like
That's like the long-term goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goal.
Yeah, and then we'll move on once we achieve that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll like go to someone better, like I don't know, like Ariana Grande or something. Like
Ooh. Yeah, I also wanted to introduce Olivia, who's one of our best friends, and she also just like spent a lot of time on the internet as a teenager and grew up in like that Pinterest kind of like Tumblr world.
Yeah.
Also a fan of Lowertown, so we thought it'd be cool to have her on.
Yeah.
Olivia, you
Olivia
wanna
in
add
the
anything to
call.
that?
Two Olivias.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yep, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, like, internet culture just has defined my life and like has been the foundation of my personality and my identity. Actually, like 5 or something years ago, like I saw pictures of you on Pinterest, and then I based so much of my identity around like doing the deep eyeshadow look. Anyone who knows me, like wear that every day. I still kind of do, but it was such a big part of my identity, and like I love that.
No,
Yeah,
it's crazy that like something so like a girl on Pinterest has like I mean, obviously it's like way more than that. You're like a person, but it's like crazy how that has like an impact and it like trickles down to like other young girls and really just people your age too. But yeah, I feel like it'd be like super interesting to start just kind of hearing an overview of how you've kind of witnessed your growth online, like your growth as an artist, and also just, I don't know, I guess I'm interested to know, like, were you super online before you kind of started to gain like a following, and how your kind of like view of the online world has shifted since then?
Yeah, I was online a lot because I was a weird kid and didn't have a ton of friends as many people that are chronically online do. So I feel like I ended up going on Tumblr a lot and sort of joining all these weird subcultures, and I had like a secret Tumblr that sort of, I don't know, for at the time I feel like I had a couple thousand followers on Tumblr, which felt like a big deal. Um, and I feel like at the time, like having a few thousand on Tumblr was like sort of an accomplishment.
No, that was huge.
I was like, I'm so famous, like, damn. But a lot of it wasn't even my own content. A lot of it was just like scheduled, like cute reposts and shit.
the cute.
Yeah, the queue. It's important. And then I went on to Instagram and created a secret Instagram account. I had like a normal Instagram, which like all my friends, like school friends followed, but I created that when I was like 14, and it used to be like an aesthetic account, like Pale Goth, if you remember.
Oh my God.
I had a
Yeah.
whole blog. I
Yeah,
had a whole blog on Tumblr.
it was definitely like my obsession, like all like the pastel hair and shit. Like I really wanted to be that girl. I don't know if you saw her like on Tumblr, but she had like really poofy scene hair, but it was like pastel colors. Like I was obsessed with that shit and I really wanted that. But I went to like a really strict school. I just started making an aesthetic account. I started taking my own pictures for the first time and like posting them. I realized that whenever I posted pictures of myself, it would hit the algorithm. So then I was like, damn, I'll milk that. And I just started making it a thing. Like it was my thing to focus on in my secret little world and friend group. Yeah, I didn't tell anyone about it and it was very freeing because I could sort of be who I wanted to be, have people that liked me for who I like, I don't know, that persona instead of the like shy person I was when I was in middle school. And eventually people found the account when I was 15 and freshman year, and I was super embarrassed about it and everyone made fun of me for it. And I don't know, and then it became like a weird thing that people would talk about at school. But yeah, I started doing it when I was 14 and I guess it got sort of big when I was around 15. And that was a little strange because being perceived that much when you're that young is super weird, especially when you're a woman. People are like hypersexualizing you and using your face all the time for like catfishing and stuff, which was like a big thing back then. Like
Yeah.
using people's faces to catfish and role playing, which is super weird. Um, so yeah, I had a lot of people using my face for catfishing and role playing and other strange shit like that.
Like, did you have like a lot of like internet friends kind of prior to like I know like you kind of mentioned it, but like how immersed in that were you? Like I feel like I grew up with internet friends. I feel like that was like my substitute for like real life friends, but also like what you were saying about like them people from the outside viewing it in school, like in real life, it's like such an interesting thing because I feel like a lot of people weren't super tapped into the internet, at least like at the age you're talking about, because I definitely experienced that too, where like I remember I would like go around and like talk about my Ariana Grande fan account. And then I was like, wait, I shouldn't do that because like people like literally thought I was insane. Like they didn't know why I was saying like slay, like in real life. Like, you know what I mean? And then like years later, this girl is crazy. I don't know. Now everybody's kind of like in it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, there was a time before, like 10 years ago, kind of when we were growing up, relying on online friends, escaping in that way. I don't know, people just didn't fuck with it as much. It's very
I
normal now.
I feel like for a while I was able to sort of hide in that. And then I don't know, I think some of my friends that were also internet savvy found the account. And also I think it got like hooked up through my phone number or something and it started getting suggested or on the like explore page or something. And yeah, it was pretty earth-shattering for me. I felt really embarrassed because I would just be very out there and I don't know, I would live stream a lot. Like that was like a thing when people would like live stream on Instagram all the time. And that was really fun because I would just go in there like and play music for an hour or two and just talk to the comments because I really had like no friends. It was very comforting because I would get like validation from these people that were like, you're so like I love your songs or like play this cover and I just like go on Instagram and like play covers and they'd be like, can you do this one? And I'd just like play all this shit. And it was like right when I was starting to like learn guitar. So, you know, it was a little vulnerable. I didn't want anybody to see that I knew in person. And it felt so disconnected from reality being on the internet. Like, I feel like also young people have a weird disconnect with the internet sometimes where they don't feel like anything they do or put on the internet is almost real or like can come back to them. And I feel like that's why a lot of really young people do stupid things and say stupid things on the internet because it feels sort of separate. I'm glad I've never done it or said anything that I've had like I can't sleep at night about, but it was definitely very like I definitely was very intrusive into my life at the time. But yeah, that sort of ruined it for me because I was like, oh, these people that I know could be watching my live streams now, and that feels really embarrassing. And I just always would be very quiet and shy in school, and I didn't really want people to know any of that about me or see me like badly playing guitar or anything. But I think like around my early high school is when people started getting more on the internet and like Instagram sort of shifted a bit more and had a bit more power. And the explore page was like very, I don't know, it was like the algorithm was starting to become very viral and shit, and it was very easy to get on there if you sort of knew what it liked. And I think that was honestly like the peak of like when Instagram was sort of cool and creative and fun, because it was sort of like how TikTok is, I guess. Like you had potential to actually do well just by putting things out there. And now I feel like Instagram is sort of a wasteland. I don't really like being on there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also wanted to like go back a little bit to like the thing you said about being like people using your pictures as like catfishing and like all that stuff, because that's like such like a crazy like thing to like go through at like 14, 15. Like the effects that like has on you is like insane. I remember like being on like Kick and stuff, and people would like use like photos and like catfishing and stuff like that, and like just like these people you don't even know just like hypersexualizing you in this like insane way, and like just like building you up as almost like this yeah, like this like character. If you want to like talk more about like the effects of that and stuff, because that's like insane.
I forgot about
crazy
Kick.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it was so big at that
It
time.
like warped my
It
brain.
was messed
No,
up.
literally.
It was so messed up, and that was a big
Bad.
place people would use the pictures was on Kick.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was super strange. Like you know, I would put my pictures out there. I don't know. I definitely looked very young, like definitely under 18. I don't know. I guess people could assume maybe I was older, but I definitely looked and acted very young.
Yeah.
And people would take my pictures and extort people for money. Like have you heard of that new scam, pig butchering? It's like a John Oliver just did an episode on it. But if you guys have gotten any weird text messages on WhatsApp or your normal texts that are like, "Hey John, are you gonna go and meet me for golf?" Or like, "Hey Linda."
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So people, it's like a very sidetracking. I'll come back.
Yeah,
But
you're fine.
it's like a highly advanced scheme run by the Chinese mafia after COVID happened, because they used to run the casinos in China, and then they couldn't make any money during COVID because nobody could go to casinos. So they now basically use like human trafficking to do these highly complex scamming things where they like lure you in with this fake text and you're like, oh, this wrong number, and then they just start to chat with all these lonely people. They get you super involved over time, and they use all these fake pictures of girls and stuff, and they basically like make you fall in love with them, and then they're like, I can help you invest in Bitcoin, and then you put all this money into like a fake Bitcoin app, and you think you're making like thousands to like tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but once you try to pull out all the money you've invested, you realize it's a fake app that they have invented and they have all of your money. But it was like, sorry, that's a sidetrack, but that's something
No,
So
That's
interesting.
insane.
it's just like an otherworldly like concept. Like just hearing you say that sounds like it's a joke and it's like a big like bit
it's
like
literally
Like a
insane.
Black Mirror episode. Like
I mean, also like, but scams are so hard to like. I mean, the like Amazon package delivery thing. Like, hey, but yeah, that's insane. That's so crazy.
It's crazy. It was like
Yeah.
a primitive form of that. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would use my pictures and basically date these people online and get them to spend a ton of money, you know, and then they would realize it was fake sometimes, and then I'd get DMs that would be like blaming me or making me feel guilty, and I'm like, I had no clue about this. Like there was one person that I still think about that was like, wait, you're not Elsa? Like they texted me and they're like, hey, like I've been seeing you for a long time. Like, is your name not Elsa? And I was like, who are you talking about? Which is also so funny because the Frozen movies came out at the time, and I had like this, and I was like, y'all could be a little bit more creative with
Come
the name.
on.
That's crazy.
But I was like, no, like my name's Olivia or whatever. And they're like, well, I've been talking to you for 3 years now, or 2 or 3 years. And they
Did
were
you
like,
get that like on Instagram
yes.
or
And I
okay.
felt really bad because they were being very genuine, and they were very shattered by this realization that I was just some like 16-year-old girl or something. And they're like, I've literally been talking to you every day for hours, and I've sent you thousands of dollars, and I'm in love with you. And I was like, I don't know who you are, and I'm so sorry. Like that sucks.
Oh,
And I
That's
felt
like
so guilty. Like, but that was super strange. And a bunch of Instagram accounts would pop up that were pretending to be me, and they would just say very very disgusting things on them, very sexual things, and it was very pedophilic. Like they would like start these Instagram accounts and like do all these very sexual things, obviously knowing I was underage, get all these followers, and then people would send them and be like, hey, I know this isn't you because you're not like this, but there's this like account that has a few thousand followers and it's very disgusting, honestly. And like I would send all my followers, I'd put it on my story and be like, guys, report this account. And it was like a thing for a while. I would be very hyper vigilant about that because I was very embarrassed about anything like hypersexual coming back to me and having like my image attached to it, especially at the time. I was so young and I still just don't think my vibe is very hypersexual, and it made me so uncomfortable. But I've been thinking a lot about that recently and how when you're young online as a woman, no matter what you do, like if you're completely just like modestly dressed, nothing you do or say has any sexual connotation to it, you will be sexualized just no matter what. And I was just thinking about how like as you get older, I don't know, I feel like you really see your body as, or it's really hard to not see your body as just like, I don't know, a commodity or something to be used in that way, or just something that's inherently very sexual. And I feel like a lot of girls that grow up online at a young age, especially underage, like feel almost, I don't know, I feel like they go into doing sexual content without really thinking about it because it just feels like, I don't know, I feel like the internet sort of grooms you to be very sexual if you're on there and being perceived all the time.
I mean, it
Like,
feels like what you're supposed to do. Like it feels like
yeah,
kind of what you're being told to do, you
it
know?
literally feels like that. I
How
feel
come not?
like there's a lot of people that I know that have gone into doing more sexual kind of content and things like that. And some of them are very happy with it. And honestly, like more power to them, and they're making good money and they're like chilling. And then there's the other half of my friend group that I grew up with online, and they started making sexual content like the second it was like legal to do that, just because it felt like the natural progression. And especially if you have a following, you make a lot of money. Like, but a lot of these people now are like, damn, like I'm in my mid 20s or whatever, and I sort of want to pivot to doing something else. And like that was fun while it lasted, but I don't really want to do that anymore. It's starting to make me feel, I don't know, not the way I want to feel. And you get sort of cornered into this sexual box, like after you become sexual, like online or by people. Like I feel like it's really hard to pivot, and people, um, I don't know. It's like that's something that has a lot of, sadly, like a lot of consequences, just because I don't know, we're not in a world that's open-minded enough to be able to accept sex workers in other fields and shit. And I don't know, I feel like, yeah, it's really hard to not have that idea in your head that your body is just inherently sexual and inherently a commodity. It's very weird. And I do just feel like you get groomed at a very young age to be sexual and to make content like that because you're just being sexualized from the second you put your face online. It's really weird. Like I still get comments all the time when like, I'll post like something that I'm like, oh, this is like I'm looking a little cute or a little sexy or whatever, but nothing crazy. And like the second I post that, it's like OnlyFans, where's your OnlyFans? Blah, 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 like this, all that stuff. And it's just so, it makes me feel bad about putting something like that online. Like I feel like dirty and gross, and like I just get comments like that every single time I post. Basically, it's just so weird. Or just a million DMs that are like, when are you starting your OnlyFans? Like that stuff just makes you feel like you as a person has nothing more to offer than just being sexualized. It makes you feel really bad. Like I'm like, I make music, like listen to
Yeah.
music instead. Like I don't know, there's enough OnlyFans out there, like come on.
Yeah, but then it also makes you feel like you can't like express your sexuality at all, which is you should be able to do, and it should just be normal, you know? Like you should be able to post a picture of yourself and feel good about it. So it's just
Exactly. Yeah, you just feel bad. Like you feel like anything you do is just, yeah, it's hypersexualized. Like yesterday I posted a picture that I felt like I looked pretty cute in. And then yeah, I just get some really messed up comments. Like, I don't know. And it's just like these guys that don't think any more of it. Like they're probably like 14 or 6. Honestly, some of them are probably way too old to be making these comments.
Uh,
That one I just got that was like, "You're so hot, I'd tap that every single day of the year." And I'm like, that makes me feel so gross. Like I want to take that picture down now. I feel like I was asking for that comment because of the content I was making, but it was literally just a harmless, like, I feel cute today kind of selfie.
Yeah.
It's
But yeah,
almost like that you've been taught to think that too. It's like that's like so unfair.
Yeah. And I feel like literally like every like I feel like that's like so like common for like every girl like on the internet like now like to have that like feeling where it's like anytime you like want to post something on like your story or like an Instagram picture or whatever, it's like that like battle in your head of like, oh, like are people gonna like perceive this in like a weird way? Are people gonna think that I'm like trying too hard? Or people gonna think that I'm like
yeah.
trying to be like sexy or something like that? And it's like such like an insane thing.
Both from like kind of like this conversation and also what you were saying about catfishing and people like literally getting tricked with your picture in front of it. We've almost like as a society had to develop a like second sense of intelligence, like one like completely outside of like real life, where it's like an online intelligence that like it's literally a different reality. Like and it's just like very fascinating to think about because it's not in like the normal social constructs and like I think that it makes sense why like growing up with the internet and being young, all of us have had a way better grasp than like our parents did and they like didn't understand it at all. It's interesting because I get why they didn't understand it. This is like a thing so outside of what like ever existed, and it's weird because I think we forget that a lot because we're so like in it and we grew up with it. It's like something that's like recent, which is really weird to think about too, and that like stuff needs to like develop and there needs to be so much more put in place to protect people like from everything that we're talking about right now.
It's so true. Like there's different rules to it is a complete different world now, and it's so complex and developed at this point. Like you can fully just live your whole life online now. Like you don't have to leave the house, which is depressing. Like
Mm.
there's so many different like social media groups and just like places you can hide, and like they each have their own culture. Like you can be submerged fully in Reddit and all these subreddits. You can be submerged in TikTok. Like they each have like Twitter. They are actually, I'm not gonna say the new name.
Yeah, no.
I
They don't deserve it.
But yeah, it's weird because like the internet is a place where you can completely full on attack a stranger, just verbally abuse them and berate them, degrade them. And you can say all these horrible, nasty things. But in reality, like in the real world, you would not be allowed to do half of that shit, treat strangers that way at all. But the internet has developed into a place where like if someone says something slightly, I don't know, different than your view or something that is a little bit ambiguous, it can be perceived as morally good or morally bad, you can just completely pile on this person. You have no idea who they are, what their life is like. You don't even know their name, and you can just be like, "You're a piece of shit. I hope you die. I hope you rot." Like just attack them. I don't know. It's a place where mob mentality thrives. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like we're allowed to be like, I don't know, the most uninhibited like primal forms of ourselves. Like it's almost like some Freudian shit. Like it's just a place where we're like allowed to be the shittiest like version of ourselves because there's still so much anonymity built into the internet. It's really weird. I don't know. I'm
It,
not the biggest fan of it at the
yeah,
moment.
it's made so that you can be the most dehumanizing possible to people. Like you can dehumanize people so easily and just see them as a one-dimensional thing.
Yes.
And it's just so it's so easy to have like to be apathetic or for people to be apathetic towards each other. It's really crazy and we're seeing it a lot right now. Do you feel like having a sort of like a stage name or like
Persona
a
kind of.
name like a persona helps you kind of like detach a little bit from it being you existing on the internet and in
Yes.
public?
Yes, 100%. I got to that point at a very young age where I almost have problems sometimes where I have too much separation between the public facing person that I feel like I am and then the private person. Yeah, I think that's made it a lot easier. And I also think that's made hopefully it's helped keep me a bit humble because I see like all these things that are sort of arbitrary. Like whenever, I don't know, at my peak, like I was getting like 1,000 Instagram followers a day and like 25 to like 40,000 likes on pictures. And um I don't know, that was honestly when I was like the least happy though, because I was just prioritizing that over everything. And when you go so full into the internet, at least with what I was doing, like it was so based on my appearance, and it made me so unhappy because I was so worried every day about posting and about wearing it's like stuff that really doesn't matter. Like that's just like very unenlightened, like what I'm wearing every day and how my makeup is. And I'm just not the kind of person that wants to be worrying about that. I feel like I have a lot more to offer the world than just how I look. Um yeah, I was just so unhappy. Like I was so worried about that stuff. And now I don't know, I think I'm privileged at a point where I don't have to worry about that. Like I think I'm at a point with my music and everything that I can sort of survive without worrying about so much how my Instagram is doing. Yeah, that separation, it definitely helps because yeah, you just get attacked all the time. I mean, even if you're making the most neutral, palatable things, you will still get attacked for some reason, but I'm just not a neutral, palatable person a lot of the time. So yeah, I think a separation is very healthy and necessary because the judgments that fall on that person don't really affect the person that I feel like I am now, like talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's mainly been, I guess, separating yourself from that role, or do you feel like you had to take other steps, literally like a mindset shift, like to kind of step away from how intertwined in like the internet you were?
I've had to do a lot of like self-work, I feel like, because at the time the internet felt like something I really understood and something like a tool that I could harness for my benefit if I used it correctly. It felt to me more expressive at the time. I think I was just lucky because I came at a time when Instagram, I would think it was literally the golden age of Instagram. Like it just felt way, I don't even know if it was like bought out yet. I don't know. The whole algorithm, everything was just a lot different. It was when like it was chronological timeline. Like the set
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
chronological anymore. They have all the power in what you see. It's crazy. You can't be offensive. You can't post anything remotely political. I remember during the time like a lot of political stuff was happening during COVID. I started posting a lot about it and going to a lot of protests and like setting up some events and stuff. And that was really when Instagram was like really upset with me and started hiding all my content because I was being political and not just a pretty girl on the internet anymore. And yeah, the second they made that not chronological, they do get to control whatever you see. That made me super uncomfortable. Um but yeah, I forgot what the question was.
It's okay. I was just asking if you like what kind of mental work you really did to
Oh yeah,
break out of that.
I think I had to like have like an ego, like an internet ego death moment. Like yeah, like the before I went on my tangent, I used to put a lot of power into that social media account, like the followers and all that exposure that I was able to have through all the like the hard, honestly really hard work. It was like I know it seems silly just saying like I posted all these pictures and stuff, but honestly it takes a lot of consistency and creativity to run an account like that. Especially when you're that young and like doing, school and stuff. Like I literally posted every single day and was very, very involved and very interactive with like my followers and stuff. And it felt overall very positive at the beginning. Like my relationship with it was very positive because I felt like I could be what I wanted to be and show what I wanted to show of myself and the best parts in my art. And I got positive feedback from people and it was very nice and wholesome at first. As time went on and like the Instagram grew, I felt way more of an attachment to it. And when things on the outside were very bad, like stuff at school, like I was bullied a lot and a lot of the girls at my school were very mean to me. I'd be like, yeah, they can be mean to me or whatever, but I always have this secret community of people that really do care about me and care about my art and my singing, and they know me more for who I actually feel like I am, and they accept me and like me. And yeah, at the time the account was yeah, it was just generally positive. So I had very positive associations to social media and Instagram at the time. And as social media changed and as it became more, I don't know, yeah, the algorithm changed, the culture around social media became a little less wholesome. I started to have a more toxic relationship with it because I felt very obligated to post and very obligated to fulfill these content requirements and this level of engagement, even when it took me away from enjoying actual things or enjoying like the places I was at or the concerts I was at. I just felt very obligated to be very involved on the internet. And I honestly stopped being able to uh I was just so connected to it that I felt like the internet world was more who I was and like more of my reality than the actual world, and I felt like I had a harder time functioning in the actual world. And it started being very the algorithm started being weird and bitchy, and I started feeling like I was losing this power over this thing that I understood so well and that felt very liberating. It got to a point where my life started getting really busy, like my real life. And that was when I started recording music. Like I signed to my label, and I started like going to like actual places, and like I went to London and started recording, and I still felt very entrenched in it. The moment that was like sort of my breaking point was I think when I went on my first like really long tour. I just was very wrapped up in my own life and feeling pretty good about it and feeling very actual creative energy again, like I did at the very beginning of having that account. And I came back and I posted again, and like people, it was just not hitting the algorithm as much because it was upset with me because I wasn't being consistent anymore. And that was just like a point where I was like, I don't care. Like I really don't care. And I just have to accept that I have no control over this thing. And if I do want to make that a priority in my life again, and I do want to have, I don't know, my time and my energy fully consumed by this thing that's really just dependent on my appearance and only my appearance, I can do that and it would probably start working again. But I also have other things in my life that feel way more rewarding and gratifying. And I'm just gonna sort of put my energy into that and just accept the fact that I can't have it all. Like I can have a popular Instagram account, um, but I have to completely focus on my appearance and focus on being on the internet all the time and interacting with strangers that I don't even really know. Or it can like take this opportunity that I've been given and like run with it and feel way better and like actually have these experiences in the real world and meet people in the real world and sort of mature past this like internet account that I had when I was 14. Like it's not giving me what I want anymore, and it's sort of this like corpse of what it was. So I just sort of let it become, I don't know, I'm just okay with it being whatever it is now. And I don't consider myself an internet person like I was.
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like
it
that's
was
why
like
there's
escapism.
It was
Guys.
escapism, but now I'm like, damn, like real life is sort of dope now.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
needed it and now you don't. Like it helped you get, I mean, I felt like that was how I was growing up. Like I needed to escape and be in the fantasy world of like online, like to help me improve my real life. And then what now like I'm nourishing my real life, you know? Pretty.
Exactly.
Feel like that's why there's so much nostalgia like around that time and around that era of the internet is like what you were just describing about it kind of like downfalling and it becoming like just an algorithm instead of like a creative space and a community space kind of because it's like now you have to like work for like you to reach anyone or for you to meet anyone or get things across and that's just like not I don't think what it was ever like really meant to be. And it's funny because I feel like conversations about the internet always end up coming back to that place of being like I miss it so
I
much.
Yeah.
But it's
There's
also
also the
like
community aspect too. Like, yeah.
it's probably like so awesome and nostalgic because it's like gone and I guess that's like how everything is. But yeah.
It used to be supportive and it used to be creative and there used to be way less monetary incentive tied into it. And I feel like it's just become so powerful and so like a big part of who like what we are culturally. Just it's just not gonna be what it was like at the start. It's just too far gone. Like I don't know. I hope there will be a renaissance of something. But yeah, it's just too like corporate now. It's sad. All the big guys like Facebook and shit, they know there's so much money and power in it. It's like it's more powerful than the news a lot of the time. We get all of our
Yeah.
information through this, social media now. So they're trying to figure out how to control that and monetize that because yeah, more people our age get our information through Twitter and Instagram than CNN and stuff from my
Yeah.
experience. So there's more power in how you control information with social media than it was. It sucks.
I feel like it's like become like the most important thing just like as like a culture like you said, and I feel like that kind of like has almost made it go like full circle where I feel like now more and more people are like getting into that mindset of like it's like the least important thing almost, like where we're just like seeing like how like negative it's like gotten and stuff, and like just like how like meaningless it is in like that like consumerism way of like it like doesn't even matter almost.
Yeah, the pendulum is swung back in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We're all in, like our mindfulness. I feel like yeah, it happens with culture all the time. Like it happened with television. I feel like at the start of television creation, everyone was pumped about it, and then I feel like I don't know, the generation after was like very I don't know, people become very jaded and cynical on new forms of media very quickly, like the generation below, and they start to make fun of it and everything. Like I feel like during like the era of like sitcoms and all of that, when there was like laugh tracks, people became very I don't know, that generation that was young at the time was very jaded and like making that was like a big thing to just like make fun of how stupid television has become. And it starts as this thing that doesn't yet have a lot of power, and people underestimate the power of it. Like I think I forgot which presidential advisor said this, but they were like television is like equivalent to like, moving pictures on your toaster or something, just like not understanding the power that television had. And it's just such a gross underestimate for the power that this new thing has. And now people, I don't know, are very cynical, and like, people are very like cable sucks and it's dead, cable's dead. And it's very trendy to, for our generation, and honestly maybe yeah, like millennials and stuff, to be like cable's dead. And I feel like at the start of social media we didn't understand the power that it had and contained, and now it has all this power, and now we're all burnt out from it and we're all jaded, and now it's honestly sort of like trendy is not the best word, but it's trendy to be like, yeah, social media is dead and it's corny now. Like it's what else is gonna happen? What's the new form of media that we're gonna underestimate? Like I'm scared about the Google Glass shit. That seems apocalyptic as hell to me.
Yeah, that's scary.
Like, I'm making fun of it now, but in like 5 years, we're gonna all be wearing those things, and they're gonna be so integral to
And
life.
then being self-aware of it, like, and then being like, oh,
And
this
then
is
they're like,
ironic.
Google,
Fun of
like
it.
I'm throwing my Google glasses out. Like I'm back to normal vision.
Yeah,
Back to fog
it's
vision.
a crazy cycle.
I want to shift gears so that you have time to like talk about music a little bit. I don't want to stop talking about the internet because it's so interesting, but I also want to give you a chance to just like talk about music. So I did want to ask, like, because you're coming up with a tour for like a solo project. After doing so much touring as Lowertown and being a part of that group, how do you feel like it's going to be different?
I'm really excited because Lowertown has been touring nonstop for the past few years, and I feel like we're at this point where we're so used to playing a lot of the songs that we can be very expressive with it, just in the performance of it, because we're so just muscle memoried in with everything. There's a lot of sameness, like a lot of repetitiveness to touring, and it's very easy to get burnt out because you don't have a lot of human interaction, like genuine human interaction. It's just very fast. You have a lot of draining moments where you're just meeting a lot of people all at once. It's super overwhelming, but you don't have enough time to actually have genuine connection, sadly, even with the people that like the other bands that you're playing with that are really cool. And with my solo stuff, at least for this tour, I'm just doing it by myself. Like I'm just playing the songs by myself, which is really scary and vulnerable. Um, but also very freeing because like I don't have to play to like a drum like any drummer. I honestly with my solo stuff, I'm just fully myself. Like I'm not a character like I am with my band. I sort of try to be a creature or like a persona with lowertown, which is really fun, but it can be very draining when you're living in that character for excessive amounts of time. So I feel like a lot less pressure with these shows. And I'm also opening instead of headlining, so my sets are shorter. And I feel like I'm able to play a way different kind of music. Like it's a lot of it is like softer guitar music, way more just trying to be beautiful than just energetic.
Would you kind of feel like the more recent singles under Olivia O, like It's Easy and What It Is Now, encapsulate that your other work doesn't?
A lot of the Olivia O stuff I've been releasing now is stuff that I've been holding on to for a long time. I guess it's easy is a much newer one compared to the other stuff, but um I've been holding on to music for a long time because of the way that releasing under the last label I was on, it was just a little bit more difficult to release solo music. So I don't know, I've just started releasing without putting a lot of pressure on it to also be successful. I've just been like, I wrote this song, it makes me feel good, I think I should put it out. I just sort of wanted to put out music and feel good that I'm able to do that and not really care, not put so much power behind the streams and like the stupid promotion of it, because that stuff
Mhm.
sort of
Yeah, I do kind of feel like people are craving like a more casual music release. Like I feel like people are a little bit worn down by the constant promotion, and it's just being overdone a lot right now. So I feel like it's kind of nice to have like, okay, I'm just gonna release it now and hope you guys enjoy it, and I have no expectations, you know, like
yeah.
it's refreshing.
It's really nice. I feel like a big thing that I got sort of trapped in as I went along with music more professionally was I just started feeling so much pressure, and I felt like there's so much you had to do around a release of music, especially with our band, because I think our band is just it's there's a lot more that goes into every project. Um but it just felt like, yeah, a lot of pressure behind every release, and you had to do all these steps in order to just drop something. And how I mean, how I even got established in music in the first place was just writing music and putting it online and not thinking about it at all. And I realized that was just it's the most creative thing you can do. It's just not worrying about it. Obviously, it's not very good for being a, professional or like a full-time musician is not worrying about this stuff. But I mean, as long as I have my band going on, I've just been trying to really use this as a practice to not overthink things right now and sort of heal my relationship with music and putting it online. Um, yeah, I think everyone is just sort of, like burnt out from the constant promotion and like, I wrote the next song of the summer and like
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's just so corny. Like I feel like almost embarrassed to call myself a musician. Like I was saying to my all my friends that are musicians, I'm like, guys, like maybe we should just not call ourselves musicians anymore, because I feel like it's almost corny to be a musician. Like sort of silly to be a musician. Just say like I make music. I don't like being so strongly tied to a label anyway, but um yeah, like saying I'm a musician, I make music, this is what I do, this is what I am is so
Yeah.
it's intense and a little bit corny sometimes, and I really hate promoting. It does make me feel really bad, and I think I have a really hard time like promoting myself online now because I just really it feels so not me, and it feels really bad, and it makes me not want to do music sometimes, at least publicly. Like it's really
It's not
weird.
honest. It's not totally honest. I know it's like how you can get, you can get more listeners, but sometimes yeah, it doesn't feel totally honest and like your true self. And at least with this like releasing music under Olivia O, like you're trying to like it's like you're being more vulnerable, you're being more yourself, and like to do that is like even a performance, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially to release like these songs that I've just sort of written by myself, recorded and produced. Sometimes I don't want to make it like this big thing, this big like you must listen to my new song. Like I just want to have the people that care and like are tapped in and sort of like it. Like I feel like that's been my approach recently with my solo stuff, and people have vibed with it because it doesn't feel like shoved down your throat. Last two songs I like this recent single, I just put it out. like haven't really been checking how it's been doing or performing, and that's just very freeing for me because I'm just really like I'm trying to like really just start from ground zero before I put out my next solo project, because my next project I'm putting out is going to be a little bit more like pressure, like more um put together and thought out.
Do you feel like kind of like change, like getting back into that mindset of like, oh, I'm just gonna like release music and just like put it out there and like whoever like sees it sees it. Do you feel like that's like helped you? Because I feel like it's like so easy to become like really like jaded and like cynical, like making like any sort of art now because of like social media and just like this constant need to promote it and like brand it and market yourself as like a creative person like doing this like specific thing. Do you feel like that's helped you like kind of like avoid falling into that like cynicism trap?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like I'm actually writing like a big essay about that pressure that people feel. If it ever sees the light of day, that'd be cool. But I'm writing, I'm writing a big thing about it because
That's
it
it.
really also just the pressure for every single thing you do to be so consumable. Like I feel like for things in our head to be popular, to do the best they like perform the best they can, you have to make it a little bit more consumable than sometimes you'd like it to be. And that definitely strays like makes people scared to experiment, and it's scared to fail. And I feel like now we're pressured to pressured to make all the time. And I think a lot of what we hear and what we see, not all the time, when there's still amazing music that comes out every year, but a lot of it's just so half-baked and mediocre. And I can feel, just because I've been doing music for so long, I'm like, I know you and I respect you as a musician, but why did you put this out? Like you feel pressure, or your label makes you feel like you have to do this, or you're trying to fill a contract. And I honestly, like, I don't hate the artist for doing that. Like it's just sort of a product of like where we're at right now. Um, but it sucks. Like it really sucks. And I feel like we're so overwhelmed with content already. And we're so burdened by just having to talk when we have nothing to say, and having to feel when we don't know what we feel yet. Like I feel like the second we get a piece of information, we're expected to know exactly what to feel about it. And the second we, yeah, it's just like there's no room for development and ambiguity, and good things take time. And like I think we've really lost that mentality because we're not allowed to feel that way. Like especially as a developing artist, you really are pressured to constantly be in people's minds, because then you'll just sort of get lost into the void, because there's so many, musicians and creatives and everyone asserting these things. And it's really hard to give yourself the time to really fully sit in something and develop, and also develop past what you were. Like people drop an amazing album and then they immediately feel pressured to come back and drop an amazing album the next year. And it's like, you as a person, like you've created a whole world, you've created a whole concept, a whole story, and like maybe even something sonically that sounds different from your contemporaries, and you're expected to create something else that's just at that level or even better like a year from now. Like that's fucking insane to me. Like people back in
Yeah.
the day did not have that pressure. And um like I don't know, there's not even time to like really do things that are really time consuming, like write a book. Like people, like imagine like taking up a big years of your life to like write a book. Like I don't know, I feel like a year feels so long now, because things just are always changing and always shifting. Like the last time my band dropped an album was 2022, and I'm like, damn, that's so long. But it's not, it's like not that long, but in
It's so
culture
fun.
today it feels like so long, because
Mhm.
everything's just moving so fast, and you're just pressured to like release things all the time. And yeah, and then I feel like as an audience member, we're just expecting mediocrity now, because there's just so much mediocrity and just so much coming at us all the time, that we become jaded and turned off to the things that, like the things that are actually very good in this big pile of shit that we get all the time. Because it's like you don't want to sift through all this mediocre stuff you're seeing all the time and hearing all the time, to look for the really good things that you get served every year, like every now and then. I don't know. It makes me so like I'm really trying to keep on level that I need to make what I want to make, and hopefully over time it'll work out in my favor, because I really just never want to put out something I'm not proud of or I'm ashamed of or I feel like is on the same level as my last project or sounds like the last project I've made, because I feel like that's just sort of failure as an artist to make the same exact thing. Like, you've already said all those things. You don't need to reiterate those points, you know? Like, I don't know. It makes me I'm really just trying to not do that again. Like, I'm really trying to just hold to what I want to be doing and make what I want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I feel like just like having to like release stuff like all the time because like you'll be like forgotten or like lost in the void too. I feel like that's like a pressure everyone feels, but then I feel like it's also kind of like a special pressure like in a different way for like girls making music too, because it's like that like thing of like, oh, I'm gonna be like forgotten or people are gonna like move on to like the next like big thing or like the next like young like girl who's like entering like the scene or whatever.
It's like
Yeah.
an abandonment issue in itself.
Get addicted to that rush that you get when you do drop something new, especially if you're in the cycle of being like a professional or like like an established musician, where you get press around a release, you get a lot of hype, you get some clout and a reason to play shows, and like there's a rush you get when you have this whole release schedule going on. You get a lot of validation and you feel very important while you're releasing something. Um but yeah, it's also something to talk about and something to make you feel good. But like, if what you're releasing is something you don't stand behind, it feels a little hollow, you know? Um, but yeah, especially as a young woman, like it it's, it's not actually this case anymore, and I feel like we are getting away from that like slowly culturally, but I mean, there's so much pressure as a young woman. They're like, you're on a clock, like, you have this many years to make it, and then you're seen as old. Like, when men can be the oldest, like crustiest whatever, which is good. Like, I wish I could be old and crusty too and people still care. Like, I'm trying to get to that point where, yeah, what I make is really not just based in what I look like or anything like that, but yeah, you really are sort of feeling this pressure as a woman as well too. You have a certain amount of years to make it or you're out. And that's so shitty, because it's really not the case. And like, you feel like once you're 30, like the music industry is like, you're old. And like 30 is so young still. Like, half of my friends are like in their mid 30s and I'm like, you're a child. Like,
I think we're like running out of time, so I just wanted to like wrap up quickly, but I guess like before I just wanted to ask as like a final sort of question, if you had like any advice like or any like last things you wanted to say for like anyone about like making music or just like social media comparison, like literally like anything in like that realm.
Yeah, especially like as a girl, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think, okay, maybe I'll have a few words. I think one thing is, like I was just passionately saying, make what you want to make and not what is inherently just popular in this moment. And like, if you want to make something that is just considered popular, like in terms of music, go for it. But just make sure it's what you want to make. And also, a lot of the time, like, when you do make things that aren't just considered inherently just popular, the sound, you can be sort of like a pathway maker. Like, you may be opening up the door to a new uh subculture or sound that people haven't heard before. Um hmm don't let insecure old men make you feel shit about yourself, because if you do end up making music on any level, like successful or just very, whatever, if you're a woman, especially a young woman, and you're making music or playing shows, there will be an army of old crusty men that wish they were in your position. And it could be like the sound guy, it could be a man on the internet, it could be someone in the audience, it could be just a slew of any old man, you will face a lot of these guys that will degrade you and make you feel like the only thing you have to offer is your sexuality. They will make you feel like you don't know how to play your instrument. They will talk to you like this is your first show you've ever played. And even if it is your first show you've ever played, they shouldn't talk to you like that. Don't let them get to you, because the reason why they're being so shitty is because they're insecure that a young woman is doing something they wish they could be doing right now. And people probably care more about you doing it than they would be if they're, they were doing it. So don't let them get to you, because they're literally just bitter. And I guess one last advice would be, don't spend too much time focusing on what others are doing. Like, pay attention to your contemporaries, because I think it's really interesting to see where culture's at, and there's a lot of amazing art being made every single year. Okay, 2 pieces of advice. Yeah, don't pay attention to your contemporaries too much. Like, don't compare yourself. Don't feel bad when they get things. Be happy for them if they're good people. And a lot of the times, these people that you compare yourself and get jealous of, they honestly, like, people that are similar to you, they'd probably be good friends instead of enemies. Like, don't get mad that they're doing well. Be happy for them, and honestly, genuinely be excited, and maybe try to befriend them, because you get a lot more out of having these people that are similar to you as your friends, instead of being jealous and bitter that you're not getting what they're getting. And honestly, like, what comes around goes around. Like, if you put good energy and support and excitement for people out into the air, it usually comes back to you. But if you put jealousy and insecurity out into the air, people will sense that. Even if you're being fake and happy and like smiling to their faces, people feel it inside. And like, yeah, just be happy when good people do well. But you can be upset and mad when like shitty people do well, because then they don't deserve. Those were my words of advice.
you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I feel like that, like, especially what you were saying about the way like men talk to you as a woman sometimes, like it applies in so many areas. It's like I feel like I'm constantly just paying attention to how people are speaking to me, and I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, thank you for
Like
saying all that.
analyzing you almost, like,
Yeah.
talking down to you.
Crazy. It's just like what any woman in any field, you just get that all the time. It's insane. It's so shitty, but it's something you just have to like sadly build up armor against, because all the time it's literally they're just mad. They're just so mad and bitter that you're doing what they wish they could be doing, and you're probably a lot younger than them, and you're probably a lot hotter than them, and they're like, damn. And then they probably just are like, it's just because they're hot. And it's like, no, I'm hot and I'm very good at what I do. So you're just really mad about that.
God, this isn't a podcast. This is a girl cast. Am I right?
What? I have one tiny last question, really quick. What's your favorite Elliott Smith song right now?
Oh, shit. Okay, well, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
One that I have been listening to nonstop for some reason is Biggest Lie on Self-Titled. That one is just, it hits different. I don't know. It's really messed up.
That was a good closing question.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing too. So okay, so we have this thing written down. If you could repeat it real quick. Okay, so if you could just repeat after me. So I state your name, and then if you have like any credentials that like might help, like in your case, you could be like, oh, like I'm Olive from like Lowertown, and Olivia, oh, hereby request Josh Ovalle for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you. If you could just say that.
Joshua who? What's his last name?
Josh Ovalle?
Valle?
Ovalle.
Ovalle. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll try to remember all these things.
Yeah. I got you if you
wait. Hello? So I start with hello?
I state your name.
Okay. I Olivia, actually, I Olive from Lowertown, and Olivia O.
Hereby request
Joshua Ovalle.
Hereby request Joshua Ovalle. Please please come on the podcast. We're begging you. I'm begging you. Please come on the podcast. that's all I want. Please come on the podcast.
And can you say we miss you too?
We miss you.
Thanks.
We miss you.
That was good.
Perfect.
Amazing. Thank you.
Lovely.
So
I like
much
watching
so.
Olivia's face when we did
I
that.
know.
That's
It's
great.
like a really like pained look in your eye.
Yeah. You're like, make them stop.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
Like
thank
everything
you.
you had to say, so important and so well said. Thank you
It
so
was
much.
really
And like
fun.
refreshing to hear too, I feel like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
This was definitely like one of the most fun podcasts I've been on for sure.
Aw.
Oh, thank you. It's
Yeah.
like it's only our second episode.
You're doing good. You're doing good.